Serve us, bitch. Those three words still echo in my mind. The sound of fabric tearing, my uniform ripping at the shoulder, customers gasping, phones coming out from every direction. Someone was streaming live. The comments were flooding in faster than I could process, and there I stood, in the middle of my restaurant, pretending to be just another waitress while three entitled brats laughed at what they thought was my humiliation. Nobody in that room knew I owned the place. Nobody knew who my father was, and absolutely nobody expected what was about to walk through that door. Before we dive into this story, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. You won't believe how this ends, and trust me, you'll want to see karma do its absolute worst. Drop a like if you believe in justice. Now let me tell you exactly how I made them regret ever being born. My name is Nova Parker, and I'm 22 years old. Yes, that Parker. My father is William Parker, the billionaire who owns Parker Empire. Hotels, restaurants, real estate across 15 countries. You've probably stayed in one of his hotels or eaten at one of his restaurants without even knowing it. I grew up with everything. Private schools, designer clothes, vacation homes in 3 different countries. Sounds perfect, right? It was empty. I watched kids my age waste their parents' money on things that didn't matter, cars they'd crash within months, clothes they'd wear once, parties they wouldn't remember. They had everything and appreciated nothing. And the worst part? I was becoming one of them. At 20, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. I had my father's credit card but not his work ethic. I had his name but not his respect. So I made a decision that everyone thought was crazy. I told my father I wanted to open my own restaurant, not with his money, not with his name, on my own. He laughed at first, then he got angry. "You have everything here," he said. "Why would you throw that away to serve tables?" But I stood my ground, because I need to prove I'm more than your daughter. I need to prove I'm me. It took 2 years. 2 years of working in other people's restaurants, learning everything from washing dishes to managing inventory. I worked under different names so nobody would recognize me. I saved every penny from a small trust fund my grandmother left me. And 6 months ago, I opened Sapphire and Gold. Here's the thing nobody knew. I didn't just own the restaurant. I worked there. Every single shift. I wore the same burgundy uniform as every other waitress. I served tables, cleaned bathrooms, handled angry customers. My staff knew me as Nova Bennett, using my mother's maiden name. They had no idea the girl wiping down tables owned the building. Why? Because I wanted to succeed or fail on my own merit. I wanted to know if I could actually do this without my father's name opening doors. And for 6 months, it worked. The restaurant was thriving. Best reviews in the city. Customers loved the food, loved the service. My staff respected me because I worked just as hard as they did, maybe harder. This was my identity, not my father's money, not the Parker name. This was mine. Friday night. The restaurant was packed. Piano music drifted through the air, mixing with the sound of conversation and laughter. I was working the window section, making sure every table had exactly what they needed. Sophia, my senior waitress, was training Maya, a sweet girl on her 3rd day. Everything was perfect. Then they walked in, 3 guys in their early 20s. You could smell the privilege on them before they even spoke. White designer shoes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Gold watches. The kind of confidence that comes from never hearing the word no. Derek, Chase, and Preston, though I didn't know their names yet. Our host, Andre, tried to seat them at a nice table near the back. "We want the best table. Now," Derek said. Not asked. Demanded. Andre, always professional, gave them the center booth, premium spot usually reserved for regulars. I noticed them from across the room but kept working. Sophia whispered to me, "Those types are trouble." I smiled at her. Everyone deserves a chance. I should have trusted her instinct. Maya was assigned their table. I watched her approach nervously, order pad in hand. She was trying so hard to do everything right. They didn't even look at her face when she spoke, just stared at their phones, laughing at something, and barked out orders. "Bring us your most expensive champagne," Chase said without looking up. When Maya brought their drinks, her hands were shaking slightly. It was only her third day. Derek noticed. "You shaking because of us, sweetheart?" They all laughed. Chase accidentally touched her hand when she set down his glass. I saw Maya pull back, saw the discomfort in her eyes, but she stayed professional. She was trying so hard. They ordered food and immediately sent it back. "Too cold. Too hot. This isn't what we wanted." Carlos, our chef, was confused. The food was perfect. I'd tasted it myself. Maya made trip after trip to their table, apologizing for things that weren't wrong. And they were filming her. I could see their phones out, pointed at her, laughing as they posted to social media. Other customers started noticing. The table next to them looked uncomfortable. An older couple kept glancing over with concern. Then Preston accidentally knocked over his water glass. It spilled across the table onto the floor. "Clean it up," he said to Maya. "That's your job, isn't it?" I watched Maya kneel down with towels, and they angled their phones down at her, filming from above. They were laughing so hard they could barely hold their phones steady. That's when I put down my tray and started walking over. "Gentlemen," I said, keeping my voice calm and professional. "I'm the floor manager. Is there a problem I can help with?" Derek looked me up and down slowly, deliberately. "Yeah, the problem is the service here sucks." I smiled, the customer service smile I'd perfected over 2 years. "I apologize. What can I do to make this right?" Chase leaned back in his seat. "You can start by getting us someone prettier to look at." He gestured at Maya like she was an object, an inconvenience. Preston added, "And smarter. This one's useless." I felt my anger rising, but I controlled it. I'd dealt with difficult customers before. "I'll personally handle your table for the rest of the evening," I said. "Maya, take your break." Maya practically ran to the back, and I could see she was fighting tears. I thought I could handle this. I thought I could manage them professionally, get them fed and out without further incident. I was wrong. I brought them fresh plates myself, everything perfect. The presentation was beautiful. They barely glanced at it before Derek started talking. "So, you're the manager. You don't look smart enough for that." Chase smirked. I bet she slept her way into that position. I took a breath, stayed calm. "Gentlemen, I really need to ask you to—" Preston stood up. He was tall, over 6 feet, and he used his height to intimidate me. He stepped close, towering over me. "You'll ask us to what?" Then Derek was on my left. Chase moved behind me. I was surrounded. The restaurant had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. I could see phones coming out at other tables. Someone was definitely recording this. "Sir, I need you to step back," I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. Derek grabbed my arm, not gentle, hard enough to leave a mark. "You'll ask us to what?" He repeated Preston's words. "Girls like you need to learn your place." I tried to pull away, and that's when he grabbed my uniform collar. I heard the fabric strain, felt it give way. Rape. The sound of my uniform tearing echoed through the silent restaurant. My shoulder was exposed. I stumbled backward, catching myself on the edge of a nearby table, and then Chase shouted it, the words that would change everything. "Serve us, bitch!" All 3 of them were laughing, hysterical, cruel laughter. I stood there, holding my torn uniform together, feeling the eyes of every customer in the restaurant. I could see the phones, at least 15 people recording. Someone had their laptop open, clearly streaming live. The comments were probably flooding in, the shares multiplying. Sophia was already running to the office to call security. Andre looked like he wanted to intervene but didn't know how. Customers sat frozen, shocked. Nobody moved to help. Nobody said anything. And I just stood there. Not because I was scared, not because I was humiliated, but because I was calculating. Because I knew something they didn't. And I knew exactly who was probably watching that live stream right now. Across the city, in a high-rise office, my father's phone buzzed. His assistant burst into his meeting. "Sir, you need to see this. It's Nova." My father, William Parker, pulled up the live stream on his tablet. He watched his daughter being surrounded, watched the uniform tear. heard those words, and I'm told his face went completely cold. The kind of cold that makes executives nervous. The kind of cold that ends careers. "Get the car." "Now," he said quietly. His assistant was already moving. "Call security, call legal, call Police Chief Morrison, and find out everything about those 3 boys." His assistant was typing frantically on her phone. "Already on it, sir." "We're 8 minutes away," his driver said. My father's voice was ice. "Make it 5. While the car raced through the city, his assistant sent him information. Derek Rothschild, son of the auto empire owner. Chase Wellington, son of a senator. Preston Van Doren, son of a judge. 3 families who thought they were untouchable. 3 boys who had no idea what real power looked like. My father made phone calls. His voice never raised. He didn't need to yell. When William Parker speaks quietly, people listen. Back at the restaurant, Derek was still performing for his invisible audience. "What's wrong? Cat got your tongue?" Chase was ordering more champagne, celebrating their cruelty like it was an achievement. Preston was checking his phone, probably reading comments on the viral video. I slowly straightened up, fixed my uniform as best I could, looked each of them directly in the eye, and I said very quietly, "You've made a mistake." Derek laughed. "What mistake? Putting you in your place?" I felt something shift inside me. The fear was gone. The embarrassment was gone. All that was left was cold, clear certainty. "No," I said. "Coming to my restaurant." Chase nearly spit out his drink. "Your restaurant? You're a waitress." I turned to Andre at the host stand. "Lock the doors." Andre looked confused. In 6 months of working with me as just Nova, he'd never heard that tone in my voice. "Nova? Do it. Now." Something in my voice made him move. He walked to the front doors and locked them. Customers started whispering. "What's happening? Why are we locked in?" That's when the black SUVs pulled up outside. Through the window, people could see them. Expensive vehicles, tinted windows. The door handles rattled as someone tried to enter and found them locked. A heavy knock. Andre looked at me. I nodded once. "Let him in." The doors opened, and my father walked in. William Parker entered like he owned the place. Which, technically, through me, he kinda did. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than everything Derek, Chase, and Preston were wearing combined. But it wasn't the suit that commanded attention. It was him. The way he moved, the energy he brought into the room. 4 security personnel followed him, 2 lawyers. The atmosphere in the restaurant completely transformed. Some customers recognized him immediately. I heard the gasps. "That's William Parker. The William Parker. Oh my God." But Derek, Chase, and Preston were still at their table, still laughing, still oblivious. They hadn't noticed yet. My father walked slowly through the restaurant, every step deliberate and measured. Customers moved aside without being asked. He reached me, and his expression softened for just a moment. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine, Dad." The word "Dad" dropped like a bomb. Derek's laughter died mid-breath. Chase actually choked on his champagne. Preston went white as paper. My father's face hardened again as he turned to face them. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire restaurant. "Stand up." They stood. Not because they wanted to, because when William Parker tells you to stand, you stand. Derek tried to bluff his way out. "Look, sir, we didn't know—" "Didn't know what?" My father interrupted. "That she's a human being deserving of respect?" Chase stammered. "It was just a joke." "A joke?" My father's voice could have frozen fire. "You assaulted my daughter, and you call it a joke." Preston tried. "Assault? We barely touched." The security personnel took a step forward. My father held up one hand. "Don't. They're not worth your time." He pulled out his phone. "I've already made some calls during the drive over." He looked at Derek. "Your father owns Rothschild Auto Empire, correct?" Derek nodded, unable to speak. "The bank just called his loans, all of them." Derek found his voice. "You can't—" "I own the bank," my father said simply. He turned to Chase. "Senator Wellington is your father?" Chase could barely nod. The Wellington family receives significant campaign donations from Parker Industries. Received? Past tense. I've also shared tonight's videos with his major donors. And the press. I imagine his re-election campaign just became very difficult. Chase was shaking visibly now. Finally, my father looked at Preston. Judge Van Doren's son? How proud he must be. Preston was already crying. I've sent tonight's footage to the State Bar Association and the Judicial Review Board. Your father's up for state Supreme Court nomination, isn't he? I suspect that nomination will be withdrawn by morning. Please, Preston whispered. My father addressed all three of them. You thought you were powerful. You thought your father's names protected you. You have no idea what real power actually is. Then it was my turn. I stepped forward, still holding my torn uniform together. This restaurant, Sapphire and Gold, is mine. I built it from nothing. Every table, every light, every piece of silverware. I worked for 2 years to open this place. Not because I had to, because I wanted to prove I was more than a name. Derek tried to interrupt. We didn't know. That's exactly the point, I said. You didn't care to know. You saw a waitress and thought she was beneath you. You saw someone serving you and thought that made you better. You're banned for life from every Parker establishment worldwide. That's 247 restaurants, 89 hotels, and 34 resorts. One of my father's lawyers stepped forward. You're also being sued for assault, property damage, and defamation, civil and criminal charges. The police are outside. Derek's voice was desperate. Our fathers will destroy you in court. The lawyer actually smiled. Try it. We have 47 camera angles from this restaurant's security system, 15 customer videos, and 3 live streams with over 2 million combined views. Your fathers can't protect you from the internet. On cue, police officers entered. They handcuffed all 3 of them. Preston was on his knees begging. Chase was crying openly. Derek looked like he might be sick. I looked down at Preston. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. As they were let out, the restaurant erupted in applause. After the police left, I stood in the center of my restaurant. Sophia hugged me tightly. Maya came out from the back, eyes wide. You own this place? I smiled at her. Surprise. Carlos emerged from the kitchen. You've been washing dishes with us. I nodded. Because that's what owners do. My father watched me address the customers. I apologize for tonight's disturbance. All meals are complimentary, and I want to thank everyone who started recording. The truth matters. Another round of applause filled the room. Later, in my office, just my father and me. He looked at my torn uniform hanging on the back of the chair. You could have told them from the start who you were. I wanted to handle it like anyone else would have to, I said, without using your name as a shield. He pulled me into a hug. I've never been more proud, not because you're my daughter, but because of who you've become. I finally let the tears fall. I was so scared, Dad, but I couldn't let them win, couldn't let them think that behavior is acceptable. You didn't just stand up for yourself, he said quietly. You stood up for every person who's ever been treated that way, every server who's been harassed, every worker who's been dismissed. That's real power, Nova, not money, not connections, character. By morning, the story was everywhere. Billionaire's daughter works as waitress in own restaurant. 3 wealthy men arrested for assaulting restaurant owner. Social media exploded. Nova Parker was trending #1 worldwide. Women were sharing their own stories from working in service industries. Celebrities were commenting. Support poured in from everywhere. The fallout for Derek, Chase, and Preston was swift and brutal. Derek's father faced bankruptcy. Chase's father lost his re-election. Preston's father withdrew from the Supreme Court nomination. All 3 boys became unemployable, their faces plastered across the internet as a cautionary tale. But my story wasn't about revenge. It was about something bigger. I held a staff meeting the next week. You all know the truth now. I'm sorry I didn't tell you before. Sophia spoke for everyone. We understand why. You treated us as equals. I smiled. Because we are equals. I announced new policies, profit sharing for all staff, healthcare coverage, college tuition assistance, and a zero-tolerance policy for customer harassment. No staff member will ever face what Maya and I faced, and if they try, I'll handle it, every single time. I called Maya into my office privately. I'm offering you a scholarship to hospitality school. When you graduate, there's a management position waiting here. She broke down crying. Why would you do this for me? I took her hand. Because I see myself in you, and because talent deserves opportunity. 6 months later, Sapphire and Gold was thriving more than ever, not because of the controversy, but because we'd stayed true to what mattered. Good food, genuine service, respect for everyone who walked through our doors. I opened a second location, this time with everyone knowing from day one that I was the owner. I hired an all-women management team and focused on supporting working mothers and students. Then one evening, a young man walked in, nervous, mid-20s. He asked to speak with me. It was Preston. Security moved forward, but I waved them back. We sat at a corner table. I don't expect forgiveness, he said quietly. I just needed to say I'm sorry, really sorry. I lost everything. My family, my future. I deserved it, but it made me see who I was. I've been in therapy, working construction, learning what real work means. He stood to leave. I just wanted you to know that you changed my life. Not the punishment, though that too, but how you handled everything with dignity I never showed you. I watched him turn to go. Preston. He stopped. Come back in a year. If you're still on this path, still doing the work, maybe we can talk about a second chance. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I'll earn it. People ask me all the time if I regret not revealing who I was sooner, if I regret working as a waitress in my own restaurant. I don't regret a single second. I proved I could build something real. I created a place where everyone belongs. I built a family, not just a business. My torn uniform is framed on the wall now with a plaque that reads, a reminder that respect is earned through character, not control. They tried to humiliate me for serving others. They didn't understand that service is strength, that humility is power, that dignity isn't given, it's claimed. And sometimes, just sometimes, karma has a billionaire for a father. My name is Nova Parker, and this is my truth. If this story moved you, don't just watch, do something. Hit subscribe and turn on all notifications for more real stories of justice and triumph. Smash that like button if you believe respect isn't about money, it's about character. Comment below and tell me, have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever stood up to someone who thought they were better than you? Share your story. I read every single comment, and here's my challenge for you this week. Thank a service worker. Really thank them. Look them in the eye. Remember their humanity. Because everyone has a story. Everyone deserves dignity, and you never know, that waitress might just own the place. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, and never let anyone dim your light. This is Nova, reminding you that the best revenge is becoming someone they could never break.